And welcome to 520 Sports Talk. This is Bill McCullough. I have Steve Rivera from AllSportsTucson here today. Unfortunately, my esteemed colleague Sean Scott is not here today, a little under the weather, nursing a little sore throat at home. So he is watching. He is going to be on the show as far as asking questions, commenting, and maybe throwing in a joke or two. So, Sean, hope you get better. We'll see you definitely next week. But we are back in the Chris Lawler Nova Home Loans studio. It's been a while since we've been here. We've been out on the road at our various live remote spots throughout town with teams from the 520 area code, which is why we are here. So welcome to the show today. I'm really excited to have Steve Rivera on with us. He's a good friend as well as mentor towards me. One of the guys, he and Javier Morales got me kind of thinking about what we're doing here. And now that we've almost a year old, you're one of the guys, Steve, that I definitely had to say thank you for. So we appreciate you being here.
Very sorry for making that happen. and let me tell you, Sean, you're going to be Wally pipped at some point here.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. Sean misses a week and all of a sudden he's gone. So, no, Sean definitely will be back next week.
We don't know that. What does he drive?
That's right. That's right. So we're going to kick into the show here pretty quick, but let me get into some sponsors because without them, obviously, we would not be here. So once again, like I said, we are in the Chris Lawler's Nova Home Loan studio. You can see Chris's picture on the wall. Great looking guy, never sleeps. You want a home loan, you want a refinance loan, he's the guy to call. I think he hangs out with the State Farm guy, because neither of them sleep. So Chris Lawler at 577-4774. Give him a call if you have any questions on home loans or refinancing. Also, Brittany Palma with the A to B team. She's got a new promotion. You can get a free listing presentation. She'll donate $25 to any school or charity of your choice. So definitely want to take advantage of that. Brittany's one of the main players in the real estate business in Tucson, and we're glad to have her as a sponsor. She was also a fitness competitor on one of our shows at Z Pizza a few months back. So definitely glad to have Brittany on our team. Also, Snap Fitness. So if you want to end up looking as good as Brittany does and some of the other athletes that we had on our show, go see John Marshall at Snap Fitness at La Cañada and River. They are open 24/7, so if you have a crazy schedule like I do, you can go in at 2 or 3 in the morning, work out, nobody will bother you. You get in, you get out, and you get buffed. So Snap Fitness on River and La Cañada. Also, our first sponsor, Micha's Mexican Food on South 4th. I think I broke the string this week. I did not go to Micha's. Normally it's a Tuesday. Yeah, that's a Tuesday staple for me. I usually get either the red chili burrito or the ground beef tacos. So I did not make it to Micha's. The Mariscal family, I'm sorry. I will try to make it over there tomorrow and make that up to you. So
one eclipse happens and you don't go into Micha's.
Exactly. The eclipse happens and it just throws my schedule all to hell. So Micha's on South 4th Avenue, best Mexican food on South 4th. Check them out. Also, their catering. They do really, really good catering. And I know this because they cater Raytheon. They cater some of the bigger companies in town. And obviously, they're not going to have that unless their catering was top notch. So Micha's catering along with the restaurant. Also, Oasis Air Conditioning and Heating with this crazy weather that we've had, boiling hot temperatures in June and ultra humidity in July with a lot of rain, and then August going back and forth, and then, like Andy said, the eclipse happening. So you definitely want to get continue to have your air conditioner running top notch, at least probably for another 3 to 4 weeks. I remember last year we even went into late October and it was still 100 degrees. So I don't know, just crazy weather here in Tucson. People that have been here for a while, it's just kind of a normal thing. But call David Murrieta of Oasis Air Conditioning, mention 520 Sports Talk, and they will give you definitely a break on your bill. Also, one of our home away from home, Stray Dogs on 78 West River Road. Stray Dogs, we will be there next week. I'm still working on a guest. It possibly could be the surprisingly 2-0 Catalina Trojan football team. Catalina has not been 2-0 probably since I went there in 1975. So it'll be nice to get the Trojans. I'm just waiting for a confirmation from them. We will be at Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs always lays out the red carpet for us. They have the incredible 17-inch donut that you saw in Ginormous Foods back in June, and they also have those crazy milkshakes with everything from Cocoa Puffs to churros sticking out of them. So if you definitely want to pack on the pounds and then go go to the fitness and work out, you can definitely pack on the pounds and then go to Snap Fitness and work it off. Also, another home away from home, and we will be there in probably mid-September, is the new Bianchi's up at Thornydale and Tangerine. Vince Bianchi, really good guy. The Bianchi's over by the West Campus of Pima College has been a staple for Italian food on the west side. Now on the northwest side in Marana, you definitely want to go check it out. It's a fabulous building. They've got room for a lot of banquets. We have big parties, big family gatherings. Check them out. Their food is top notch. It took me, I think, 3 meals to eat a lasagna. I mean, it was just huge, and and I can eat a lot. It still took me a long time. So check it out. Bianchi's at Thornydale and Tangerine. Also, the sister restaurant to Stray Dogs is Zona 78 out on Tanca Verde across from Udall Park. Also, fine Italian food, wood fire pizza, and just a great place to go check it out. If you do live on the east side, Zona 78 is definitely a place you want to check out and eat. Thank you for also their sponsorship of us. We will hold shows there when we have East Side schools, Saguaro, Sabino, some of the Vale schools. We do our live remotes from Zona 78 at that point. And last but certainly not least, TucsonAlist.com with Kendra Sewell. Definitely, if you want to enlarge your business footprint in the Tucson metro community, contact TucsonAlist.com. And not last but not least is Andy Taylor Media, because obviously we are here in Andy Taylor's studio with the Chris Nova Home Loan Studio. Andy does a fabulous job, best producer in town, and also
I like it. Sean's not here. I'm not afraid to talk.
That's right. That's right. So Andy Taylor, if you have any, if you want to do commercials for your business, he will go on site and shoot them. Any other show ideas you may have, run them through Andy. He will definitely give you the best information in the business.
Cool.
All right. So that being said,
I'm pretty impressed. Do I have any time to talk now? Is it the show's over?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Steve.
Exactly. Sean usually does the sponsors and stuff, so this was probably only the second or third time I've ever done it. So. Okay, so today we have Steve Rivera, all-world sports writer, Tucson icon in the sports field, formerly from the newspapers and now from AllSportsTucson.com. We had one of your compadres, Javier Morales, on with us a little while back when he was in town from Las Vegas, and we were happy to have him. So this is a treat, and like I said, you've always been a mentor, and I've always looked up to you as far as a journalist and a friend.
I'm glad that the bar is set very low for you. I'm hoping to have fun. Bill, I've always admired you. You do a great job in terms of trying to get out there and represent a lot of people fairly and accurately. And come on, people who do this are here to have fun.
Yes.
We're not breaking any banks.
No,
we're not. We just do it because we love it. People. I've been doing this for more than 30 years, and I don't make a ton of money. I do it because I love it, and I don't think I have a bad life.
No, exactly. It's I have a regular job, and then those of you who know that I work at Golden Corral, and it's kind of funny.
I'm headed there now after this.
Let me tell you this. It was hilarious when I just went back to Golden Corral about a month and a half ago, and people that I knew were glad to see me, and then there were people that were I'd walk around and ask people, "Hey, is everything okay? You're enjoying the food?" And people would look at me, and I was like, "Okay, this person's going to have a complaint." And this one guy goes, "Is your name Bill?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is. Can I help you?" And he goes, "Are you the guy on 520 Sports Talk?" Never saw the guy in my life. I'm like, "Yeah, yes, I am." So it's kind of neat that people do know me outside of Golden Corral.
And that he wasn't a cop.
Yeah, and he wasn't a cop. And even the armored car guy from Garda that picks up our deposits asked me, what my name was. He goes, "Yeah, I've seen you on 520 Sports Talk." So thank you, Facebook Live. And obviously I don't have the TV face, but we do a good job, and we try to support all the 520 teams here. So let's get into what we're going to talk about. If you have any comments, questions, you can use the Facebook comment line to ask a question for me, ask questions for Steve, make comments. If you know either one of us, if you want to be funny, whatever the case is, send emojis across the screen, and we will definitely get to your questions and give you a semi-serious answer, I imagine.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
okay, so we're going to start off with Arizona football. We got a home opener against NAU. We basically just kicked their ass last year, scoring 77 points. What do you think? What are you looking forward to in the opener?
Well, it's good to see, or going to be good to see, what the quarterback situation is with Dawkins and how good he is. I'm sure Khalil Tate will fill in admirably, and they'll do very well together. I wouldn't be surprised if they play the third string guy, whoever that is, just to get him some action.
Right.
If it's a score like it was the last couple of years, it's not fun to watch. You just kind of hope it hurries up and finishes, and that nobody gets hurt.
That's the big thing over the last course of the last 2 years. We've had so many injuries. I think that's the predominantly concern the fans and the coaching staff have is just no injuries, please.
Right. I'm kind of curious on how the people feel about all these games. And I asked Rich Rod today about the first 3 games setting the tone for the rest of the year, because I think I know, and people I've talked to said if they don't win every game in the first 3, it could spell trouble down the road, because it'll show how good they are or how good they're not. And not so much just first game, but the second game is a pretty big game.
Yes, definitely.
And I understand we'll talk about that later. But Houston's no slouch. I know they're going through some stuff now where they can't. The first game is postponed. So I'm not sure if that's a benefit or not benefit for them. But it ain't going to be easy for Arizona. I don't think any of the games are going to be easy except for this first one.
And that being said, I think UTEP is definitely going to be a challenge, even though it's at home. These aren't the Miners of the old WAC, where we just used to roll over them. I meant it's almost like the tables could be turned, where they may be the better team coming into our house.
And you've been around long enough. Don't you think even what's coming out of your mouth is a surprise? Because UTEP, we should go in there, beat them by 45 or whatever.
Right.
Good luck. I don't know if that's going to happen,
right,
or how close it's going to be. But in the past, you'd say, okay, just go in, get out, and get away with a win.
Yeah, just take care of business, and we'll look forward to next week. So, U of A, obviously in this position, they can't overlook anybody. They're just
not this year.
Yeah, they're just not. And coming off a 3-8 season last year, there's no target on our backs. A lot of teams may overlook us, as a matter of fact. It's
funny. This is 6th, 7th year. He did a heck of a job when he first got here with Stoops players, and won some games you never thought he'd win. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of thought that maybe all that luck run out. I don't know if you believe in karma, but he had a lot of magic dust in that pocket of his for a long time, and then everything just went south.
Yeah. Well, I know the year that we won the South title, a couple of those games, the Cal game with the Hail Mary, right, and stuff. That could have gone either way. The ASU game could have gone either way. So, sometimes your luck's on your side and sometimes it's not. And fortunately, that year it was on our side. But, it's just a matter of, I agree with you. He did a lot with who he had when he took over the program from Mike Stoops.
And as you look at the season, as you have on your thing here, a lot of the games here could be 50-50 games, mm-hmm, where it could be a bounced ball or an interception late or this or that could prove the difference to be a successful year.
Exactly.
And the question is, what do we mean by success?
True. Is a 500 season success?
That's the $1,000 question, or $64,000 question. If he goes 6-6, does he keep his job?
Right.
If he goes 7-5, does he keep his job? I think the underlying factor in all that is butts in the seats.
Right.
Because if they're not going to go watch, what's the purpose of having?
Exactly, and even us being a basketball school, football drives the athletic program.
Oh yeah,
just as any school.
Well, there's a reason why there was a deficit last year, mm-hmm, in the athletic department. It's because people didn't show up at games. Right. I remember specifically that USC game, and we knew it was going to be a one-way affair. It was beyond one-way affair. But by middle of the third quarter, if not the beginning of the third quarter, there was 10 people on the east side.
On the east side, yeah.
It was brutally hot.
Yeah.
I was happened to be on the west side with somebody in a cool room, and I'm thinking, why would anybody be here?
Right.
And the only people on the east side were the USC band.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and you got to get your butts in the seat, like Steve said. And I'm an Arizona alum. Obviously, I want the Wildcats to do well, but also being in sports journalism, I try to be fair. So I know the season ticket sales are down, from past years. I think that's to be expected coming off a 3-8 season. I think the Gronk bobblehead thing is another promotion to try to get people in the seats. And I don't know. In my opinion, I think a couple of people or a few people might do a wait and see. Let's see what we do against. We're going to beat NAU. Let's see what we do against Houston and UTEP, and then I'll make up my mind if I want to buy single game tickets.
And then once it falls apart, they're gone again.
Right. Exactly.
You've been here a long time, more, and I've been here 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I've reached 30 years this week, and I wrote this 10, 15 years ago that I truly believe that Arizona, and Tucson specifically, is one of the more fickle towns in the country. I know every college town has its moments or has its issues, but a lot of people aren't from here.
Right.
They pull for Wisconsin or they pull for Iowa because that's where they're from. And Tucson has the few natives or whatever you want to say, but it's a very fickle, and you have to prove them. You have to prove it so they can show up.
Exactly, and it's kind of a contrast from football fans to basketball fans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basketball fans, they expect you to go 35-0, and if you lose a game, you have these crazy comments. Oh, let's get rid of Sean Miller, and it's like, obviously, what are you talking about?
Right. I'm sure you hear that. You've heard that here.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me, and I kind of joke about it online and in my columns. Okay, one, who are you going to get? Two, who are you going to pay? And he lost a game. Get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it. And who's the one that's talking about it? Who's saying that?
Right.
Consider the source.
Exactly. And I think Facebook, a lot of the chat rooms, the basketball rooms, the football rooms, I think they kind of drive some of their, I want to say, their own agenda, when it comes to, throwing out the venom and stuff. Now, coming off a 3-8 football season, I think some of the comments are legitimate. I think some of the concerns are legitimate. I've heard crazy stuff like, if he goes 0-3 or 0-4, though, he might pull the trigger, or he might put Cecil in or something like that. It's all speculation. I don't think, that anybody knows, for sure what's going to happen. I think A.D. Hickey, I think he's going to do a great job. When I lived in Michigan, actually Rich Rod was the coach in Ann Arbor, and Dave was up in Mount Pleasant at CMU. So I think he does a good job. I think that was a good hire. We had a great staff looking for him with Ced Dempsey and some of the other people that that did the searching for him. So I'm really excited about the future of Arizona athletics. We'll see what the football season holds, and we'll take it from there, I guess.
Well, it all starts with them. They have to do a good job publicity-wise. They get that if they do well. Like I say, the first 3 games are going to be the set the tone for the rest of the year if nobody gets hurt. Mm-hmm. But the good thing, I think, and I asked Rich Rod again today about the running backs, because that's my next story, is you have Wilson and you have J.J. Taylor and then you have Tilford and then you have a Green, I think it is. Mm-hmm. It's probably the most depth he's had in a while. And we all know last year there was no depth.
Well, yeah, you had Sabaji Grant,
doing stuff. So how good are you going to be when you have Samaji, bless his heart, having to carry a lot of the load?
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't mean that nothing bad will happen this year. Wait till we play.
I spoke, and I've made this point for you guys that follow 520 Sports Talk, especially when we've had the U of A alumni on and we've talked about the football program. A lot of the injuries, in my point of view, in my opinion, are because of the fact that we are so small. I mean, you play the Washingtons, the Stanfords, the USC. They have, NFL-sized people, 320, 340, up front, and, you're throwing a running back that's $187 into the line. I mean, things are going to happen, and then they're not going to be good.
What are that? Force equals whatever. I wasn't good in that type of
the physics thing. Help us out, Andy.
I have no clue.
AMC squared, whatever
something
it is.
Like that. Yeah.
I don't know if I want to agree with you, because I understand what you're saying. I think of a lot of it's luck, circumstances, and probably one of them is yours: the height, weight, and all that speed. I believe in karma. You've been riding a high that's been great, and then all of a sudden it stops. It stops. You've played things where you go on this roll and you ride that roll until you can't anymore.
Right.
And then it hits, and then everything goes to poop.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, like playing craps in Vegas. You ride those dice until they, and then you got to adjust, and that's going to be the that's going to be the telltale sign of how good this coaching staff is going to be.
The one thing that, and I thought that the running backs and I think the quarterbacks are going to be good. They're going to be fine because you have one guy who can replace the next and still be fine. The rest of it, I'm not sure. What do you think? I'm talking about every position.
Right. I think offensive line. I think we're good with the starters, but I think that there's a little bit of more of a drop off than I would like to see in the second string and maybe down in the third string. And those guys are going to have to play. You know, even if you don't have injuries, you've got to sit there and rotate your players, especially on the offensive line. Defensively, I'll be honest with you, I'm scared. I don't know what to expect. We don't have a lot of guys back. We didn't have a lot of success last year. I think the only team that I saw that was just incredibly worse than we were was ASU, and that team couldn't even tackle.
And I don't even know if they showed up.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, for that last game, it was like, what the heck are you doing? And
right.
It was very strange. That game was very strange to me.
It was.
On a number of levels. Just they were a favorite. They didn't show up to play. They killed them. But I agree with you on the defensive side. Let's just assume that Arizona scores 30 points, 35 points. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to prevent 45-point games.
Yeah. I mean, you could have the old wax scores, 48-45, and it's a shootout or something. So
fun to watch.
Yeah.
If you have patience enough to stay for the game.
You're right, exactly.
And I don't know if that's the case, especially if you're losing.
That's true. I don't know what type of team we're going to have. I mean, offensively, like I said, I think we agree that we're going to be okay offensively. Mm-hmm. Can we come back, though? I mean, if we get put in a hole early, if we're down, I've told this on other shows too. UCLA has the perfect blueprint. Jim Mora, whether he's on a hot seat or not, has just kicked our ass the last 3 years. And any team that wants to beat Arizona needs to look at the UCLA film because they just dominate on both sides of the ball. If we get into a hole against UCLA or any of the other big teams, in the South, are we going to have that ability to come back? Right. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. We've talked about this on our show a little, just about how many wins they'll be able to pull off. And I've been kind of critical. I said 3 or 4.
I did too.
Realistically, 3 or 4. But then I was kind of being convinced that maybe they can pull off an Oregon State, which is realistically okay.
I got that as a toss-up.
I get that. And if they can win those 50-50 games, they could win 2 more, maybe 3. I just don't see it, but I could be wrong.
Now, the game that it's kind of intriguing to me, and we've got fans in Utah that watch the show, whether the girls play the Pima softball families that watch us, or the Tony Chambers that watch us down in St. George, big Utah fans. But we have always played Utah strong, whether whether they were a dominant team or we were a dominant team. I think they beat us last year for the first time, and I don't know how long, but that I have now as a toss-up game. I had it as a certain loss before, but now kind of reevaluating the situation, looking at the schedule, and maybe hearing some stuff coming out of camp. I'm going to put that as a toss-up game because of the fact that historically we have played them very well.
And in that list of yours, how many are definite wins?
Definite wins I have or NAU.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it?
That's it.
That's good. It. No, and that's being realistic from your end.
From my end, and like I said, I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong. I'm a Wildcat, down to the bone. But just looking at it from a sports journalistic angle and looking at what the other teams have. SC is going to be incredibly strong. UCLA, even an off UCLA year, is going to be stronger than we have this year. Utah's up and rising.
Colorado's going to be good.
Colorado is going to be really good. And then you've got you get your powers in the north. You've got your Washingtons, your Oregon. Washington State always throws a wrinkle into things. When you either play them down here or you play them up in the Palouse. So
right.
UTEP I have as a toss-up. Like I said, Utah, just because we play them tough. We have to go to Boulder. I don't see us coming out of there with a win. UCLA, once again, I think they have our number. Cal, I have it as a loss. I could maybe be talked into a toss-up on that.
I was talked into a win for that one. So you're talking 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. That's not that great.
No.
And that's later in the year.
Right.
So
right.
I think that's early November, late November. What is that? The Cal game.
The Cal game is the 7th game we have.
7th game, so late October-ish.
Yeah.
And if Arizona's not doing well at that time, who knows what's going to happen by that time with the coach?
That's true. That's true.
Because I still think a lot of it has to do with butts in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
and how the morale of the city is on this team.
Yep.
You know how it is. It's either you're good or you're bad, and if you're bad, people talk.
Yeah, I mean, even though people say there's nothing to do in Tucson, people will not go to the game and find something to do.
Right. Well, even when they are, when they're really good, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you've been there, they leave.
They leave, yeah.
They leave. So what's the point?
Yeah. I mean, they're worse than the Dodger fans.
That's traffic.
Dodger fans, yeah, exactly. They leave early because they want to get on the 210, the 10, and the 405 and the 5 and just get the H out of Dodge.
Well,
so.
the good thing is, and this is, I'm not a fan. I don't want people to believe I am or I'm not, but there's a kind of a piece of me that wants them to do well. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I'm an alum of the University of Arizona, so obviously I want them to do well. I will always be a Wildcat. But realistically, I think this is going to be a tough year. I really do.
More so than any other year in the last 3 years, probably, because I think you were probably pretty optimistic that they'd pull off better than what they pulled off.
I thought we'd go 6-6 last year and go to like a Las Vegas Bowl, or we're the owners of the New Mexico Bowl.
Right.
But when the wheels started coming off the wagon, I just started shaking my head and I feel bad for the kids because
sure.
they're trying their best and.
So let me ask you real quick because we kind of go there. I kind of go there every now and again for practice or after practice to do the interviews. And you've been around. You do the show, and we do our shows. What's the gauge you get in the community about the team?
The gauge I get is I think over optimistic. I've heard people and close friends of mine who actually either played high school football or somewhat knowledgeable about the game saying we're going to pull off 7 wins, and I'm just like, what team are you looking at?
Right. So in my end, and the reason I asked the question is, I get that. Who cares?
Yeah.
There's not an enthusiastic bone in their body for this season.
Right.
And I think you mentioned this maybe a few minutes ago about the season tickets.
Mm-hmm. Way down.
Way down. So I think that's another apathetic way to look at it. Mm-hmm. But I don't get a gauge of, God, these guys are going to be good or bad. To me, it's an indifference.
Yes, I agree with you.
And the worst thing that you can have in anything is an indifference.
An indifferent fan base. Exactly. I mean, and it's so much different for basketball because
there's never been that.
Yeah.
I've been around 30 years now, and I've written countless stories about UA basketball for 25 years now. And everyone says, how's the team going to be? I said, have I ever told you that they're going to be bad?
Yeah, exactly.
And not once in my time, they're not going to be any good. There could have been a stretch there when Luke was ending his career, and Kevin came on, and Russ came on, but they still competitive.
Russ still went to the Sweet 16.
They're still competitive, yeah. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is, and obviously I would be the first one. I would love to be able to eat crow if we pulled off some miraculous games and at least got to 500. I would go on the show and publicly. I'd bring a dead crow with me and eat a feather.
If he went, well, we know what
it's on tape.
Do they sell
That's
that?
Right.
Do they sell that at your place? No.
No, I don't think we have braised crow at Golden Corral.
But if they went 6 or 7, that could be Coach of the Year possibility for Rich Rod.
Yeah, it could because
he's picked last in the league.
Yes, unanimously, I believe. I don't think any sports writer put us, above 12.
Not that we know anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a question via Facebook from Ramon. With Rich Rod here and the same system consistently, upgraded facilities and stadium, why are we behind in recruiting?
Go ahead, and I'll ask you a question because I've talked about this on the show.
I think we're behind on recruiting. We did decent when he comes out and he starts his recruiting. We're pretty well ranked, and then we've had so many just flip flops or last minute defections. A lot of them to Oregon, to some of the other schools. I think that I don't really know the answer. I can't put my finger on it. I just know that our recruiting needs an upgrade. I don't think the coaches leaving is helpful at all because there's no stability with the assistant coaches, and a lot of people don't know. The assistant coaches are the basis of the recruiting. It's not the head coach; it's the assistant coach.
Right. So let me tell you, you guys kind of know me. I'm self-effacing and kind of like ripping to myself and all that. But first of all, I think they did a good job with the facilities. Mm-hmm. At least they upgraded them and made them better. But that's just kind of, to me, it's Kids don't go for the facilities.
No.
They go play. And if it happens to be a good school where you were able to play, more power to them. Oregon, don't they have a great place?
And they upgraded their facility, I think, the same year or the year after we did.
Explain the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Those didn't help, did they?
No.
So that's kind of my purpose. This is what I say about Arizona. I've said this a number of years. There's 12 teams in this conference. Where would you put them in those 12 teams in the conference? Rank them in terms of places you do want to play. Let me tell you something. At the very best, I'm a 7. I'm not going to be an 8. I'm not going to be a 9, and I'm not going to be a 10. I'd be fooling myself if I was a 10. But people think that we're in Tucson, Arizona, a great place. I've lived here 30 years. Love this place. But people don't see that. And Tucson, in those 12 ranks, to me, is about 7th best.
Right.
And I'm just trying to be honest.
No, exactly.
And I could be totally wrong, and they could say, Steve, you're full of it. But if my son's going to go play football, and he's good enough to play at UCLA, guess where he's going? He's not coming here. He's going to UCLA.
Exactly.
Or USC or Stanford or whatever, Washington. I mean, that's just being straight up.
Exactly. And it's funny because everybody's got USC, actually, I think, coming out of their, their probation and their sanctions and stuff. And now that their coach has had a couple of years, his second year under his belt, I think that they're going to definitely surprise some people. But they have some of the worst facilities for football in the conference. I mean, the Coliseum was built for the 36 Olympics.
But it has its reputation.
Yes, exactly.
Lute did what he did here for as long as he did here. The facilities here weren't great. But it was Arizona basketball, and Lute was coaching them.
Right.
The end.
Exactly. It's funny because I mean that point you just made, it was brought home to me. I cover Arizona women's basketball, and at the end of the year, they had a Friday, Sunday home and home thing with ASU. They had senior day. Coach Barnes's team beat ASU, which was the higher rated team. And then Sunday, I traveled up to Tempe and I covered their last game. And I'm looking at Wells Fargo Arena and I'm looking at McHale, and I was like, these were built pretty much the same time.
Right.
And there's just such a difference because of the upgrades that they've done to McHale. Now, the big thing that stands out is the scoreboard. I mean, Wells Fargo scoreboard, I mean, I think I've seen, high school scoreboards as good as that.
And who won that game?
ASU won the final game.
So so it really doesn't matter, does
right,
it?
Exactly.
And that's kind of my point. You can build as much as you want. I know that's the object of all the ADs who want to raise money to do all these things, and SEC is going bonkers with their money. But at the end of the day, last time I checked, Butler went to the Final Four twice.
Right.
In the last few years. Arizona has gone 0.
Right, exactly.
Another question via Facebook. How many games on the schedule are definite losses? I mean, could you guys look at this now and pencil it in?
Well, what's Vegas? I think Vegas went from 5.5 to 4.5.
Yeah.
Over under. I could be wrong, or vice versa.
I jumped on it at 5.5 on the under.
And to me, that's a great pick.
Yeah.
But if it went to 4 and 5, I wouldn't touch it.
No, that's
because they could win 5 games.
Yes.
But the definites, and you have your list, and you can go down. You can just kind of say,
yeah. I've got us beating the Lumberjacks, obviously. Houston, I've got it as a loss. Now, let's just kind of put on the brakes right there and just talk about Houston for a second. With the hurricane just happening, they are not in their own facilities. They're going to Austin, where University of Texas is, and they're practicing. They also have a first-year coach, but they also have a ton of talent.
And they're still Houston. Right. So we'll see. Those things that people don't talk about are intangibles that are factors.
Sure.
So I don't know. I had them as a kind of possible loss too. I don't know where to go with that. So then they play UTEP.
UTEP I have as a toss-up.
Do you? See, and I think they'll be good enough to win, even on the road. If they don't win this game, it's going to be a heck of a long season.
It's going to be, some crazy things could start happening.
And you had Utah. Do you have possible win at Utah?
I have Utah at home, but I have it as a toss-up just because of the fact we always play them tough.
I like that theory.
It's almost like we haven't played Oregon for a few years now because of the schedule, the imbalance of the schedule, but Rich Rod always played them tough, before that,
Yeah, and matchups are key, but I'll give that a loss. That's my first sure loss.
Okay.
Colorado,
I have going in Boulder and the altitude. I think we're going to come out.
That's who I agree with you. UCLA.
I think once again that Mora's got our number.
3. That's 3. I agree with you there.
Cal, I have as a loss. I think you have as a possible win.
A possible win at Cal. That's one of those games where Arizona figures a way how to beat Cal. and they got their new coach. A lot of them, a couple of coaches from Arizona, I think, are out there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Who knows? But that's a possible win for
And
me.
historically, those are shootouts.
Oh,
You
yeah,
remember
yeah.
some of the older games?
I was there for
Yeah.
the Strawberry Field. It was
Yeah,
just
Strawberry
unbelievable.
Canyon is just crazy.
You
Those-
can't understand how it happens, but it happens.
Or what about the big, both sides have had huge leads and then the other team has come back to tie them. I think we've had 2 ties in that series, within the last, 15, 20 years.
So you're looking at 3-4. We'll kind of give the Cal a toss-up. So
Okay.
USC.
Loss. Straight up. Blowout.
I agreed.
Yeah. I have a toss-up of Oregon State, even though you have to go to Corvallis. I think that...
But Oregon State beat Arizona last year. Is
Yes,
that
they
correct?
did, yes.
In a surprise kind of game.
Right.
And they look horrible.
And I think we were actually favored to win in that
And
game.
they looked horrible this weekend.
Uh-huh.
So possible win. So that could get you to 4.
Yeah, I was a
possibly.
toss-up, but yeah, that's a possible win.
Okay, Oregon.
At Oregon, I don't see us.
I don't see
winning.
that either.
Okay, and then in Tempe, I think as a toss-up, just because I think that they're going on the same road we are with Todd Graham.
So you're looking at 5, maybe 6 wins. I mean, give or take a lucky bounce.
yeah, if all the stars fall into place, I think
So if they go, and we talked about this already, 6-6, good year.
6-6. I have to agree with you. Would be a phenomenal year.
There's a
And
possibility.
you're going to go to a bowl game when everybody in town.
Well, I don't know if they'll go to a bowl game. They'll have enough wins to go.
They'll be
to a bowl.
eligible. Yeah, they'll be eligible.
I am what I am. Doesn't mean any girl's going to say yes to me asking them out. At the end, we won't go beyond that.
That's right. But it's going to be an interesting season. It's going to be I think at times I think it could be a very enjoyable sit down on the couch, grab a beer, grab some food, watch the game. Obviously we want to wish the kids the best of luck, the coaching staff.
You do have a remote on that.
I do have a
So you can change it to another
Yeah.
day. I just wanted to be sure.
It's so funny because people that know me and my friends, know that I'm just a college football fiend. I watch maybe 4 NFL games a year, and one of them is the Super Bowl. So I wake up at 9:00, and having lived in Michigan, 9:00 they're still on daylight savings time, so it's noon in Ann Arbor and Columbus and everything, and you're watching Big Ten from 9 to noon, and then you get the SEC from noon to 3, and then you'll get some Mountain West, and then
the
Pac-12, and then Hawaii comes on at 10 at night, so it's a full day.
We need to get you out more often.
Exactly.
We need to get you out more often.
I try not to have a girlfriend during football season.
Is that by choice or just like?
I think it's just how it is what it is.
We have another question via Facebook, and with all the coaches in the history of the U of A, what do you think, Steve, about the Lute statue that was announced? I noticed the written piece on the website that you have as well.
Right. I thought I got that 3:30ish, 4 o'clock. I had talked to Lute most of the day because we're doing our fantasy camp thing for him, and he didn't mention a word, didn't say anything about it, and then it came from the U of A, and I'm thinking, damn him, he could have told me something.
He's such a humble man, though. He's a great guy.
So I had to get him back on text and get a quick quote, and I know they had already had quotes from him, but it's obviously, I think, and I kind of wrote this in the beginning, that it's kind of long overdue, and
Yes,
people have been kind of clamoring for it. And it's funny because I was at U of A this morning to get some stuff for the Olsen camp, and one of the guys who gave me the stuff that I needed to get, he says, because Nike sent it, and he said to me, Arizona would probably be Colorado State had it not been for him. And I'm thinking, that's probably right. Because back in the day, it was the WAC.
Yeah.
They were kind of mediocre at best or whatever. And Colorado State's kind of that team that wins some, loses some. And he said, we'd beat Colorado State. I'm thinking, that's a pretty good observation.
Now, the WAC, and I've had Bob Elliott and Herman Harris on some shows and stuff, and Lute is, a phenomenal coach, and he's, definitely the icon of the Arizona basketball, the history of it. But, even going back to Coach Snowden, I was really impressed with that 77 team that went to the Elite Eight because, one, you only had 48 teams go to the dance.
Right.
Two,
you played on the home court.
Played at the home court. You beat a Georgetown with John Thompson as the coach, and you beat a UNLV with Tark as the coach to ultimately play, at Pauley Pavilion against UCLA, and obviously coming up on the short end against Richard Washington and some of the other great stars that the Bruins have. But, I was really impressed with the way that Coach Snowden went into Michigan, went into Chicago and Indiana and some of the Midwest states, and just pulled these phenomenal players out, and brought them to Tucson. Because back then, face it, Tucson was
Dusty Tucson.
dusty old cow town, and it wasn't the Tucson that we have now.
Right, and I'm sure that you've talked to Bob Elliott, who I adore and is a great guy. He continues to say that had it not been for Fred, Lute would have never come.
I have to agree with that.
And because he showed that it could happen here.
Yeah.
And he made it happen here.
Yeah, because we're not a big market. I mean, we're not even, we're not big market. We're not even Phoenix.
It's hard to get here.
It is.
If you notice, I'm not from here.
Right.
And I'm trying to get flights here and here for some of the guys, and it's tough to get here.
Yeah, it is.
And Rich says this all the time. If you could just stay here for a little while, it grows on you.
Yeah.
But it's hard getting people here.
Exactly. And I have to actually, give Mike Price, thumbs up too, because, Washington State's in the same type of position with, in Pullman. It's
Have you been there?
I have never been to Pullman, no.
I've been there 23 years covering the basketball team, and I got a quick real story. I have some relatives in Spokane, so I used to stay in Spokane every now at the Davenport greatest hotel in the conference, but I used to stay sometimes with my cousins. It was the night, I think, that Tom Landry died. Snowstorm like crazy. Very treacherous roads from Spokane to Pullman. And I called my then wife and my kids to say, if I don't make it home, just make sure I loved you, because it was that bad.
Really?
It was that bad. So I followed the bus going, it was very slow because the snowstorm was so bad. And we had to do it a lot.
Right.
Well, at least once a year
Sure.
for 20-some years. And it was not fun. Not fun.
Yeah, so the out of the way places, the Pullmans, the Tucsons,
The Corvallis.
even Corvallis. Yeah, exactly. Thumbs up to those guys that that when you do pull off a 4-star, a 5-star, and like Arizona, just constantly in the top 3 of recruiting every single year.
That's what he does the best.
Exactly.
That's what he does the best.
It was funny because I lived in Michigan. I was still living in Michigan when Sean got hired, and everybody in the Midwest knew him from Xavier, and everybody out here is like, who is this?
Yeah, which made no sense.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this guy is going to be terrific, because if you ever see Xavier, they are like in-your-face defense, and it's carried over obviously to Arizona. I mean, Lute had some good defensive players, but Sean really, really, he stresses defense, and you can see obviously the guys that have gone on to the NBA, are really, really good defensive players.
Yeah, Lute's guys were defensive to a point, but what he made sure is we'd outscore you.
Oh yeah, we're gonna run you out of the gym.
Yeah,
exactly.
And some of those games were just unbelievable. I remember sitting on the sidelines on courtside, and some of the games where some observers would come and say, "This has got to be the best team in the country." This was like November. We know when they played really well in November,
right?
And then things happened in March.
And they played everybody in November. They didn't hide.
Right.
Yeah.
And these guys were just playing on point, playing hard, playing tough. And I would kind of say, well, it's November. I mean, kind of what's the point? We'll talk to you in a couple months.
And that goes back to the fact that we were talking about, if Sean Miller loses a game in November. Once again, it's still November.
Exactly.
In February, nobody's going to remember this.
Yeah, and we'll talk about basketball in a little bit. I think we still have more time. But I think this year's team and his situation, and I kind of feel for him, not a whole lot because he makes a ton of money, but you could go 35-0, 36-0, and if you lose that one game in March somewhere, it's a failed year.
John Calipari,
a perfect example of that, and it happens more often than not.
Or even the UNLV teams of the early 90s.
91, yeah.
Exactly.
And then let me say this: Gonzaga, a team that had been trying to knock on the door forever, finally got there, got to the championship game, had a shot away of winning it. How do they feel about that season?
Right.
They didn't win it, but they were darn good.
I mean. I think anybody who knows that team and knows Mark Few and everything, I mean, it's probably it's got to be their greatest season of all time.
Sure,
but you still walk away in second place.
Well, look at what happened to Arizona in 2001. Probably in my mind, the best team Lute ever had. To the talented, could beat a lot of teams that he had in the past, 97, 98, even 88. Finished second to Duke, played fairly well. Got a bad call with Williams over Gardner. We don't remember that game.
No.
We don't talk about that game.
No, and we were in the championship. We were in the Final Two, not the Final Four.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Exactly. One of the best memories I have of a Lute Olson non-conference win, and it was really a fun game to watch, and the place was rocking, is when Iowa came. For the first time since he left that school, And a lot of people, may or may not know, he took Iowa and Ronnie Lester to the Final Four while he was over, in the Big Ten at that point. But that was such a, I'm sure it was a meaningful game to him. It was fantastic. It was back and forth, and we ended up winning. But Iowa back then was one of the tougher teams, not only in the Big Ten but in the country.
Mm-hmm. There's so many good games I can remember. There's some of the big games against UCLA, the huge comebacks, the Houston game where Chase Bundiger was stepped on his face, and they came back from the dead and they won that game. There's I can go on and on.
Exactly. I mean, the game that Sean Elliott broke Lou Alcindor's or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. Fantastic game. So I mean, there's a lot of good memories.
You're going to have a lot of people crying on Facebook.
That's right. That's right. So let me just kind of backtrack back into football for just a second, then we'll go back into basketball. Tell me what you think that Coach Chuck Cecil is going to bring to the.
Well, he's not allowed to coach, really. He's out there, but he's not allowed to coach. So it's hard to say.
Now, he's not allowed to coach game time, but he can coach in practice.
I don't think he can coach. No, he can help the coaches now, like in film session or advise. So I think that people are kind of reading too much into his presence. In terms of influencing the kids and doing stuff. That said, he's around, and it's hard not to not recognize him.
I think his presence lends itself to.
Oh, yes. Was it a great move? I thought it was a fantastic move. By whomever decided to bring him in. I mean, it's probably a little late. I mean, it could have been done a while back. Hundley, too. I mean, we've all talked about that same move. How much it'll play, I do not know. How much of a factor, I do not know, because I think that people think he's out there doing the coach. He's not doing that. He's not doing that.
You think his presence and shadow, so to speak, are kind of lurking in the background, putting in maybe question. Undue pressure on the current staff?
No, I don't think Rich believes in that, and his ego is one that won't allow. I think it's more of people talking about it,
making an issue of nothing.
And not knowing enough. And let's face facts: the kids here know of him, but they don't know him like you know him and I know him.
Yeah.
So he's a pretty good player. So was Scooby Wright and all these. For these kids.
Different generation.
Different generation. Right.
Yeah, they don't remember that the NFL actually made a rule, the Chuck Cecil rule, because he just used to, he would spear. Yeah, he would spear. Just, we're not even going to sugarcoat it.
Have you seen him? Have you talked to him lately?
I have not. I haven't had a chance. I'm hoping to see us he's on our show on the 12th.
He's, how I build. I'm kind of built kind of frumpy, 5'10", whatever, X amount of pounds. We talked to him when he initially talked maybe 3 weeks ago. The dude is like this pet. The dude doesn't look
I know. He's
wet. He looks 180, great shape, and you're thinking, this guy beat the crap out of people.
Yeah. Exactly.
He was that good because he knew angles, knew speed, knew where to be, all that.
He was not fast, as safeties were. But like you said, the angles and I think just the football intelligence.
The mentality of the game.
Because the guy, I'm from San Diego, so I knew him when he played at Helix.
Right.
And, for a while there, we had a great defensive back pipeline from Helix, starting with Alan Durden and then Chuck and some of the other guys.
Hammerschmidt after that.
Hammerschmidt, yeah. So, the guy, like you said, you just saw him. He still looks like he could strap it on.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be, what's this guy going to do to me? And then once he hits you, you say, oh, God, what the heck happened?
He might be 180, 185, but you're getting 185 pounds hitting you at, maybe, 250 force. So
right.
Incredibly talented player, and obviously his longevity in the NFL lends, to that.
Well, to me, and this may or may not be accurate, but just to me, he is the Steve Kerr of the Arizona program because he was just another dude.
Yeah.
Who turned into this dude.
Yeah, exactly. And, probably the most prolific, one play in the history of Arizona football.
Do I have a way with words or what?
That's very eloquent. I love
it. That's right. So, his 106 or whatever you want to call it, yard run back against Arizona State, for that touchdown, that is the mainstay of a replay for Arizona football. So let's go back into basketball. Talk about the Barcelona trip. Obviously cut short, untimely event for the terrorist attack in Barcelona. But tell us what you saw on that trip.
Well, I didn't watch a whole heck of a lot because, to tell you the truth, I knew the competition there was not going to be any good. It's hard to gauge how good you're going to be when you're not playing against anybody. I mean, you and I could have probably been out there getting scored on, dunked on, and all that. And these guys look great. It reminds me of the fact that when Corey had his summer league program about a year ago, and Marcus Williams was scoring 45,
right?
And there was, he's going to come and do this every year, all the time. And I'm thinking, he's not playing against anybody, guys.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that. So it's hard to gauge, but I think, and I talked about this initially with Sean in the press conference, it was more of a camaraderie, let's get together and bond, see what we're all about off the court, because people don't talk about this, but it's huge.
Oh, definitely.
If you don't have that, you kind of don't have stuff on the court.
Exactly. That locker room is probably... and that's what people don't see. You go in, you get your halftime adjustment. People don't have any clue unless they played the game on what goes on in the locker room, and that's when you come together or you fall apart, or you fall apart. I mean, I've been in both situations. I mean, in my career,
could be the littlest things too.
Exactly. I mean, and sometimes leaders will step up and fire you up to kind of a remember the Titans type thing. Or you see a chink in the armor with your leader, that transcends down to the rest of the team, and that just obviously is very negative.
And by the naked eye, when we'll get to see him more, is I think what he does have is a lot of leaders in their own individual way. Trier will be that guy, so will Ayton, so will be a couple of other people who have come back, and they'll lead in their own way, and it'll be a pretty good group. And I know Lute has said this a couple of times. I was with him when he said it for the interviews, that this is probably the most talented team he's ever seen at Arizona.
I read that, and
he said that 3 times to 3 different TV stations. And when he said that, I kind of knew he was going to go there, but to that extreme, it was pretty solid.
Considering the history of the players that we've had, not only in his era, but the Sean Miller era and beyond.
That said, I don't want to. It's still in the honeymoon period. And having been divorced, having been through a honeymoon and a divorce, there's a lot that goes in between day 1 and day 20. So even if they went 35-0 and didn't get to this, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's not easy. Just because you're talented doesn't mean much. You have to go through the right.
Well, we made the Elite Eight with what was a 7 or 8 loss season. It's so.
Are you talking about this year or in the past?
In the past, yeah.
In the past, just look at this year. You had a very good year. And then you get beaten in the Sweet 16. What kind of year was it characterized as?
Yeah, that would be that would not be a successful year for Arizona basketball standards.
Correct, and that's how it was.
Exactly.
And that's to the detriment of the sport, and it is what it is. That's why people love it, though.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and we are a basketball town. I mean, obviously we have success. We've had limited success in football. Our baseball teams won 4 national championships. Women's softball, just one of the top 2 in the history of that sport. Track and field, we have Olympic swimmers, but when it comes down to it, we're a basketball town.
Oh yeah. Well, success does that, and it's a good success. It's a long history of success. The good thing is they have Sean, and he's continuing it. And he does a good job. He does a good job.
Let me change gears a little bit and go on the other side, and let's. I want to ask you about the women's team. I mean, she's got a phenomenal recruiting class. I think it's number 2 or 3 in the country. I actually got to interview a couple of the incoming freshmen and a redshirt that's coming in from University of Washington, who I think is going to be a program changer myself, in my opinion. I mean, she's just Washington is their pedigree as far as their women's basketball program is just it's unmatched by only a few teams in the country. I think that she's on the right track. I was really excited when she got hired. I remember her playing here for Coach B in her career, and I saw her play in the WNBA. We have a really good relationship because because 520 Sports Talk follows them.
Right.
And I am really, really excited about this women's team coming up and the season. I saw the growing pains. It was kind of funny because they played Alcorn State and they won, but Alcorn State came out in the second half and threw a 3-quarter trap against them and just totally took Arizona out of their game. And after the fact, it was kind of a warm and fuzzy press conference. It was like, Coach Barnes, how do you like getting that first one under your belt and stuff like that? And then it was time for me to ask a question. I was like, talk to me about that press. And she just looked at me like, whoa. It's like, okay, let's change gears here. And then, because I wanted to ask her what she thought. And down the line, it was funny because I've played on basketball teams, and teams that press don't like to be pressed.
Oh no, yeah, it's a common thing.
And so the next game, and I'm sure I didn't have anything to do with it, but it was just kind of remarkable, and it was kind of ironic that the next game Arizona came out and pressed, and they got a few steals, and it really the defense complemented the offense and got them going, kind of like Lutz teams where you'd lock them down and it turned into fast breaks and dunks at the other end. So.
For sure. Well, I covered her a little bit back in the late 80s, early 90s when she was here. Thought she was a heck of a player, a go-getter, kind of a feisty player, obviously an WNBA quality type player. When they hired her, I was pretty impressed that they were able to get her, and then more impressed that they were able to keep her when Washington came open.
That was kind of a concern with me. I was like, okay, you've been here a year,
right?
How married to the school are you? And to her credit, and I have the utmost respect for her. She did stay because that's one of the top jobs in the country. And that's a huge commitment to hear, knowing that you have a lot to work with, or you have a lot to do to get to where you want to get to. But in talking to a couple people out in the public, not knowing Adam, they've been happy with what's going on. They got the French girl, right? I think, and then your Washington girl. And you got two Florida girls, South Florida girls that are coming in. One's a transfer, one's a freshman.
So I think over time you're going to see a pretty good women's basketball program, and maybe get people in the seats.
I think so, and actually I think Arizona. I don't know if they were the top drawer, but they had one.
I saw that
they had one game that actually Javier was there covering it for you guys. There was 9,000 people.
So it's one of the most improved attendance-wise.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And she got the maximum out of the minimum. She had some good players, but she didn't have the talent that's coming in now.
And that's the mark of a good coach.
Right.
If you have very little and they work their butts off for you, that's half the battle.
Exactly. And I think I'm going to be excited to see how Lucia Alonso goes from her freshman year to her sophomore year, because she actually in the offseason got to play for the Spanish national team on the 19 and under squad. So let's see how that international competition.
Well, I have to say that you guys probably do one of the best jobs of covering the team locally. We had somebody there. I think he'll be back again this year and does what he can. But
he's a good guy. I've met him. I like talking to him.
Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen? But as much as they need coverage, whether we do it or you do it, or they need coverage, and that's how they get recognized.
Exactly. There's nothing that 520 Sports Talk can add to football and men's basketball that's not already there. It's a pretty saturated journalistic, melting pot and stuff.
No, if you can find your niche or find your go get it.
And that's what we do here. We take the non-conference sports and we, I've gotten so many letters and texts and emails and stuff from beach volleyball, from Coach Watson, from Coach Barnes, from Coach Kendrea, from Coach, and then the baseball coaches, the swimming coaches. So
and you know this, having been in the business, some of the best stories are those stories.
Exactly.
Because no one's chasing those stories, and you'll be able to get them.
Exactly, and we have a lot of fun doing it, and just as much as I have fun reading you and Anthony and Javier's stories about the two major sports in Tucson.
Yeah, well, thank you.
We have a comment here on Facebook as well from Jason. Hey there, Steve. You do great work. They want to follow the website. It's AllSportsTucson.com.
Correct.
Very cool.
Yeah, we've been up about almost a year now in terms of the new look. Javier Morales, Anthony Gemino, Andy Morales does a great job with the high school sports. And then we've been around for a long time, so we kind of do columns, mostly things like that, and we know people kind of who talk to us still. So we try to take advantage of that.
I like watching the sports guys too, because you guys are a riot.
Well, it's fun. It's kind of like this, you just back and forth. It reminds me of the day, when you saw the guys smoking cigarettes around the round table and giving each other grief, and not agreeing, because if we all agreed on stuff, it wouldn't be fun. No. And I'm not an antagonist, but I enjoy arguing with people about sports.
I like to take the opposite. Even if I don't agree with it, I'll I love to debate. My grandmother just told me, "Was like, why weren't you a lawyer? Because you love to argue."
Right. So that's what this is about. To me, I could be wrong, but it's about sitting around and shooting the shit and having fun.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what sports is all about. Because everybody's got an opinion, and right or wrong, it's fun to kind of. To get that banter back and forth, and talk sports. I know that Jason and I have talked sports before, and he he has an angle, I have an angle, but at the end of the day, he's a great guy. We're good friends, and we're glad that he watches the show.
Right.
Yeah. Do you any more maybe desires to go in writing books when it comes to the sports, especially focused on Tucson?
Good question. I've written 5. I'm sure you knew that. I was on your show a while back with my third book. The book I'm most proud of, actually, with the box. A lot of history behind that. And then Anthony and I joined forces about 2 years ago to do the 100 Things Everybody Needs to Know Before They Die. A very popular book.
Very good book.
A very fun book to write. We were under a huge deadline to finish it. But I have a couple of more ideas that I've been trying to sell to some publishers. It's been a tough sell. They're still about athletics, still about U of A athletics. Right. Eventually, I hope to get them published, yes.
Very cool. Look forward to
I have written no books, but I just want to say that my article on the Pueblo Sunnyside game got just mad views and shares, and so Warrior Nation, I thank you very much for supporting that. My post game interview with Coach Brandon Sanders was a pleasure. Brandon's he's a good guy. We've become friends now. We've had him on the show, on the alumni show, and I not only did the Sunnyside game, but I did actually their opening game against Rincon, where they just romped 58-0, which kind of leads us into that point that you make. I mean, Rincon, bless their hearts, they didn't have a lot. Pueblo comes in on the road, beats them 58-0. The next week against Sunnyside at home at Pueblo, they score 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
So just the despair. And plus, they're playing a 6A school. So
what you're saying is you've written no books, but you stayed at a Holiday Inn.
I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Yeah, and I am a rodeo cowboy.
I call those baby steps.
That's right.
Yes. And let me tell you something, and I'm quite saying this very honestly. There isn't a whole lot of money in books because you need. I'm not Bill Clinton. I'm not these big people where they give you a ton of money to write a book. They give you a small stipend to kind of write the book and hope you sell. But they're fun to write.
Right. That's the thing. It's a pleasure writing it.
And you get to meet people you've never met before, and they tell you these great stories, and you hope to do it again.
Exactly.
Great stuff.
How much time we got, Andy?
Well, we're just about at the end. You might want to hit our sponsors one more time.
All right. Sounds good.
That's like another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We got a lot of sponsors, man. We're popular. Once again, it's been a pleasure to be back into the Chris Lawler Nova Home Loan Studio here in Continental Ranch, Arizona. Chris Lawler, for all your financing, refinancing, any type of loan you need for a house, call Chris Lawler. Also, on the other side of the coin, now before you call Chris, you'll probably want to talk to Brittany about buying a home or a townhouse or a condo. She'll get you all hooked up, and then you can go talk to Chris. So they're going to work hand in hand together.
For the listeners that are listening in Utah, that they can come here. It's really comfortably cool here.
Yes, exactly. And I know St. George is not a place that's any cooler than Tucson. So
I've been through there. I was there when I went to watch. This is a kind of quaint little place.
It is. I've got a good friend, Tony Chambers, that lives there. I meet him every year in Vegas when we all get together for the Pac-12 tournament. And great guy, bleeds red and black for Utah, and he lives in St. George. And they do 110 degrees too. So it's not any place that you're gonna have to put a coat on, and maybe before the middle of January. So okay, and then also we want to get back into Brittany. If you do get a promotion, a free listing presentation, she'll donate $25 to any school or charity of your choice. Also, Snap Fitness with John Marshall. Go check him out at River and La Cañada 24/7. You can work out. Meech's on South 4th. Best Mexican food. I probably look the way I do because I do eat Meech's a lot.
I love that place. I love that place.
Yeah, it's a great place. The Mariscal family's been doing that since 1976. Definitely check it out. It'll be a meal you will never forget. Oasis Air Conditioning, Heating, David Murrieta. Check it out. Get your air conditioner. You're probably going to be good for a couple more months of hot weather, and then when the weather turns, maybe hopefully before October 31st. Get that heater ready, get your ducts cleaned out, and get your home up in tip-top shape for that. Also, our home away from home, Stray Dogs at 78 West River Road. We will be there next week. Like I said, I will do the official announcement on our promo on Thursday on the Facebook page. We're hoping to get the Catalina Trojans football team in there. So Trojan Nation, put a little pressure on the head coach and the AD to say yes, and we'll get you on the show. Also, Bianchi's at Thornydale and Tangerine. great Italian food, great atmosphere, brand new building. You can't beat it. Once you go there, you'll definitely want to go back and again. Zona 78, if you're on the east side and you want Italian food, that's the place to go. Go watch a kids game, a youth football game across the street at Udall Park, and then go across the street and back to Zona and have a wonderful dinner. And also TucsonAlist.com. Enhance your business reputation, enhance your footprint throughout the metro area with TucsonAlist.com. And also Andy Taylor Media. We love Andy, and hopefully he still loves us.
Yeah. Parting shot too. I know it's not 520. Any thoughts on the big fight this weekend?
The one that just happened?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I'm a big boxing fan. I've covered some of the bigger events. I covered Mayweather, De La Hoya. I covered some of the other ones, and I went to the Olympics games to cover those. I bet McGregor. In all honesty, I bet him at 5-1 because he was at 8-1, I think, at one time. And I said it was going to continue to go down. I thought he had a chance in like the first 4 rounds, and I'm thinking I might have a chance.
Yeah.
Right.
But he couldn't keep him away. That jab of his couldn't keep him away, and then obviously he got tired.
Yeah, I mean, Mayweather definitely had the reach on him. Yeah.
So you mean McGregor had the reach on him until Mayweather figured him out,
Right?
And then by then it was like an expensive horse going against a bad horse. The big horse is going to win.
No, Mayweather looked like he could have kept going though.
Oh yeah, no question.
Yeah,
I think the conditioning's a little different, from sport to sport on that.
Right. To me, it was entertaining, more entertaining than I thought I would get from it.
Yeah.
Didn't you feel that way?
I thought it was, it was entertaining. I didn't know which way to go because I didn't really like either boxer as far as, I didn't really have any ties to either boxer. It's like, I used to be a big Marvin Hagler fan because he would just go there and beat your ass.
The Thomas Hearns fight was huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like Steve said, I think it was entertaining. I think it may be a new wrinkle where people may cross over and we may have future bouts with MMA guys and boxers. So, who knows? But, it could be the start of things to come.
It was. I got more. My money's worth more in this fight than I thought I would.
Yeah.
A lot of fun though. I thought it was a good night for a lot of people. If you saw clips from people, it was a lot of people having fun watching it.
Well, I know all the restaurants were dead because of people staying home. So it's like a ghost town at work. So, all right. Well, we want to thank Mr. Steve Rivera for being on the show. This was actually a really fun show. One of our more enjoyable shows that I've had in the year that we've been on the air. Thank you, Steve, for coming in. Sure. You guys check out AllSportsTucson.com. We support them. They support us. We all do a good job. And we will see you next week at Stray Dogs. Just keep an eye on the page, and we'll let you know what's coming. Also, thank you to Slow Truck and Dirty Magic for the enter and exit music that they provide for us. Tucson bands support local music. For Bill McCullough, Steve Rivera, Andy Taylor, and the 6 Sean Scott at home, we'll see you next week.
But I just can't speak.